Hello YouTubers, my name's Mike and I'm going to put an Andy in front of Marshall. That's not right, hang on. My name's Marshall and I'm going to put a mic in front of That's not right. My name's Andy and I'm going to put a mic in front of Marshall. Here's an interesting question. What is miking up an amp? Well, I don't really know the answer to that, but I've done a bit of thinking about it. So if we go back to the pre-digital age, when recording studios recorded music onto tape, and this was an analog mechanism of recording, and amplifiers were valve amps and microphones were analog mechanisms of recording the sound from an analog valve device, then the only way really to record the sound was to put a microphone in front of the amplifier. Those of you who have watched some of my previous videos will know I've spent quite a bit of lockdown messing around with this digital recording studio. Today I'm going to look at one of the features in here, which is microphone setup for an amplifier. Now this is a digital simulation of amping up a mic, miking up an amp. The long and the short of it is that using the digital technology in there, we can simulate a lot of different amplifiers, 39 at the last count, and we can simulate the sound that they would make through a microphone at different types, 5 different types of microphone at different positions relative to the amplifier. Now that makes a difference because the cone of an amplifier makes slightly different resonances of noise depending on which direction you're listening to it. So I'm going to do a bit of a test. I'm going to compare a microphone listening to an amplifier, and I'm going to compare that with the microphone listening to a digitally simulated amplifier. Does that make any sense? That's a little 40 watt Marshall MG15CF with 8-inch speaker, and that is a small condenser microphone. Right, so that's the analog setup. On the digital setup, I've created an effect which I've called MS1, Marshall 1. And if I click the right arrow, you can see the only part of this signal chain which is being used is the amp. I press enter on that. I'm sorry about the jiggly camera. I've got the amplifier set to be a Marshall i959 on channel 1, and if we scroll it down a bit, we've got mic type as being, that's the wrong one, that's the one it wants to be, a simple small condenser mic, and we want that to be centered on the speaker cone. Now obviously the sound is going to be recorded digitally. I am not going to dig out my old Philips compact cassette recorder and try and make an analog recording, but what I will do is I'll record straight through the Boss BR800 onto QuickTime on the MacBook. Now, to add just another dimension to it, we'll compare microphone centered and microphone off center, as far off center as we can go, and we'll do that digitally and analogically. Now we're offset. Here we go. Right, that's the analog recording done. Let's plug the guitar. Amplifier's off. We're recording digitally on the simulated digital Marshall with the microphone centered on an 8-inch speaker cone digitally. Okay. Last one. It would help if I could play it correctly, wouldn't it? Anyway, you get the idea. I thought that was really interesting. What I was amazed by is how similar the simulated amp was to the real valve amp in the center position, and how different the simulated amp was from the real valve amp with the microphone offset. Well, it makes sense that the simulated Marshall amplifier is similar to the real one, probably because the circuit in there is probably pretty much the same circuit as they use in all Marshall amplifiers, but I bet the valve, the thermionic valve, is smaller in that than it would be in a 1959 or whatever that simulated one is. But the basic circuitry, the basic quality of the sound should be pretty similar. I think the difference between the simulated offset, which I set as 10, I don't know what that means. 10 is just as far offset as you can get, and where I put the microphone to, which was I guess just about the edge of the speaker cone and then a little bit beyond. But actually, with the digital simulation, it sounded much less crisp. There's much more bass and much less top end, and I may be able to get that if I move the microphone way off someplace, or stick it at the side of the amplifier. I don't really know, but I thought it was actually really very interesting comparison. Well, there we go. What next? All right, catch you again.